Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something foundational, aren't we? A book that's almost become like a cultural touchstone.
We are indeed. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. The title itself is practically famous.
It really is almost shorthand for, getting along with people or being persuasive, but we're aiming to go deeper than just the surface level, the networking tips.
Exactly. Because Carnegie's core message that real success comes from genuinely connecting with and understanding others. Well, it sounds simple, maybe deceptively so.
Right. So our mission today isn't just a summary. We're doing a proper deep dive, connecting Carnegie's practical advice with, well, a much broader context.
Yeah, we're bringing in classical rhetoric, philosophy, even modern psychology and effectiveness literature. We want to understand why these ideas have stuck around for nearly a century, why they still resonate.
And it seems like Carnegie really marked a shift. Before him, or at least commonly, influence felt more adversarial, like winning a debate.
That's a great way to put it. The focus was often on argumentation, proving you're right, maybe even crushing the opponent's logic in the public square or the boardroom.
But Carnegie just flipped
He
them.
completely flipped the script. He made influence about empathy, about seeing things from the other person's viewpoint. It became about winning the relationship, not just the argument.
And the stakes for not getting this right are surprisingly high, aren't they? It's not just about career success.
Not at all. I saw this concept framed really powerfully. It suggested that if you failed to gain mastery over your own mind, your own thoughts, and failed to engage with life's complexity in a meaningful way,
You risk what?
you risk losing the chance to have a life worth living. It links this ability to connect, to influence ethically, directly to our overall life satisfaction. It's profound stuff.
Wow. Okay. So influence isn't just a skill, it's tied to meaning. Our ability to handle complexity, both internal and external, is linked to how we form connections.
Precisely. If you're constantly worried about things outside your control or reacting defensively to every little criticism, you lose that internal stability and maybe lose your shot at a truly meaningful life.
So to succeed out there, to really influence people in a lasting way, we have to start in here, inside ourselves.
That's the fundamental premise. The journey starts inward.
Okay, let's unpack that. This internal work feels like the absolute bedrock. You talk about public victory influencing others, but it has to start with private victory. So where do we begin building that internal ethical foundation?
It starts with self-mastery. That's the core idea. Effective relationships, genuine influence, they begin with the kind of character we cultivate when nobody's watching.
And the sources make a really important distinction here, don't they, between the character ethic and the personality ethic.
Yes, a critical distinction. The character ethic is about who you are. It's built on things like integrity, humility, fidelity, courage, justice. It's about achieving, as one source puts it, dominion over self.
Dominion over self. That
Mhm.
sounds significant, like real self-control and independence.
It is. It's about building substance. The personality ethic, on the other hand, focuses more on seeming. It's about image, techniques, skills, positive thinking attacked from character, quick fixes, charm, maybe even manipulation.
We all know people like that, right?
Yeah,
Superficially charming, great first impression, maybe they talk a good game.
definitely. And look, the personality ethic isn't useless. It can work sometimes, in the short term, maybe, if the situation isn't too demanding.
But the sources argue that's where it falls apart.
Exactly. The quote is clear. When difficult times come, these superficial techniques fail. They just crumble. Because there's no deep, resilient foundation of character underneath.
So in a crisis,
Mhm.
people need to trust your integrity, not just your smooth talk.
Absolutely. You can't fake resilience or trustworthiness when the pressure's really on. True independence, knowing who you are, what you stand for, that has to come before interdependence. You need that internal solidity before you can effectively connect and collaborate with others.
Okay, so if we accept that we need to build on this character ethic, we need to form new habits. But changing habits is notoriously hard. It's not just willpower, is it?
No, not just repetition or willpower. The sources define a habit, especially for this kind of deep change, as having three interconnected parts. Think of it like a three-legged stool.
Okay, what are the legs?
First, you need knowledge. That's the what to do and the why, the theory, the paradigm.
Got it. Like understanding why listening is important.
Right. Second, you need the skill. That's the how to do, the actual practices, the methods.
Like learning active listening techniques.
Precisely. But the third leg is often the missing piece. Desire. That's the motivation, the want to do, the drive.
Ah, so you can know why and how, but if you don't genuinely want to, it falls flat.
It completely collapses. Using your listening example.
Yeah.
You know it's good, you've practiced the skills, but if deep down you're impatient, or you think you already know best, or you just don't care about the other person's perspective.
The habit won't stick. The desire isn't there.
Exactly. The skill and knowledge are neutered without that internal motivation. For real change, all three, knowledge, skill, and desire, have to be working together.
That makes a lot of sense. And this idea of focusing our energy, this internal work,
Yeah.
it connects to the idea of the circle of influence, right?
Yes, absolutely crucial for building that internal security and power. The idea is that true effectiveness comes from focusing your energy only on the things you can actually control or influence your circle of influence.
Which is usually smaller than we think.
Often, yes. It's about making and keeping promises to yourself and others within your control. Your attitude, your choices, your responses, your work ethic. Small, consistent commitments.
As opposed to getting caught up in the circle of concern.
Exactly. That's where most people spend their energy worrying about politics, the economy, other people's weaknesses, things they have little or no direct control over. It feels like you're engaged, but it's actually disempowering.
Because you're just reacting, feeling victimized by external forces.
Precisely. Focusing on your circle of influence is proactive. Every commitment you make and keep, no matter how small, builds integrity. It's like making deposits in your personal character account. This builds genuine security, guidance, wisdom, and power from the inside out.
And this internal security, this sense of control, seems linked to finding meaning too, which you mentioned is critical for well-being.
It's deeply linked. When people feel adrift or struggle emotionally, some sources suggest it's often not a fundamental flaw, but a symptom of, well, underlying meaninglessness. This is where Viktor Frankl's logotherapy comes in.
How does that work? What's the core idea?
Logotherapy suggests that our primary drive isn't pleasure, like Freud thought, or power, like Adler thought, but meaning. And crucially, meaning isn't something we just invent out of thin air.
It's something we find.
Or detect. Frankl's idea is that logotherapy helps the individual detect his unique meaning in life through work, through love, through courage in difficult circumstances. When you connect with that sense of purpose, that unique contribution only you can make.
The anxieties and neuroses can diminish.
Often, yes. Because you're anchored by something intrinsically valuable, not just external approval or circumstances. This sense of mission provides profound internal stability. That's real self-mastery.
So the bedrock of influence isn't just about being nice or skilled. It's fundamentally ethical. It has to come from integrity.
Without a doubt. And this connects beautifully to something Theodore Roosevelt said. He insisted that the only sane and healthy basis for society is judging people on their worth as a man, their character not on class, wealth, or job title.
So if you want to influence ethically, you have to start by seeing the intrinsic worth in others and in yourself.
Yes. And that ethical stance needs a direction. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, gives us guidance here. He said that to know what to seek or avoid, you have to relate it back to the supreme good, your ultimate purpose, the aim of your whole life.
Because without an aim,
Your plans miscarry, you live by chance. Seneca's analogy is powerful. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. The character ethic gives you the sturdy ship and the rudder. Finding your meaning gives you the destination port.
Okay, character built, meaning detected, port identified. Now we can start sailing into the public sphere.
Now we're ready to apply these principles externally.
Right, so we've done the internal work. Now interacting with others. Carnegie's methods really come alive here, and one of the most powerful, maybe counterintuitive ones is about admitting your own mistakes, like right up front.
It's brilliant, pure psychological judo. Carnegie understood how to disarm people. There's a fantastic anecdote in the sources about this. Someone made a mistake on a client's order. The client was naturally upset.
And instead of defending himself or making excuses,
He jumped in first, expressing his eagerness to criticize myself. He basically took the wind right out of the client's sails. He owned it completely, even maybe exaggerating his own fault slightly.
the effect on the client.
Immediate deflation.
Yeah.
The client started backtracking, saying, oh, it wasn't that serious, just a minor thing, didn't cost us money. By admitting the error so readily, the speaker removed the target. The need for the client to vent or condemn was already met by the speaker himself.
And the result wasn't just smoothing things over.
No, it led to a positive outcome. A check was paid, and he even got a new commission. It's a masterclass.
So the takeaway is that owning your errors, quickly and sincerely, clears the air of guilt and defensiveness. It changes the whole dynamic.
Absolutely. It shifts it from you versus me to us versus the problem. It's influenced through radical honesty and humility.
And that humility is key because the opposite approach, using criticism and especially shame, is incredibly damaging to connection.
Toxic, really. The sources, particularly Brené Brown's work, define shame beautifully as the fear of disconnection. It's that deep, gut-wrenching fear that something we've done or failed to do makes us fundamentally unworthy of connection.
Which taps into our deepest human need, right? We're
Yeah.
wired for belonging.
We absolutely are. And it's crucial here to distinguish shame from guilt, as Brown does. Guilt is, I did something bad. Shame is, I am bad.
Guilt focuses on behavior, which you can change. Shame focuses on the self, which feels immutable.
Exactly. Guilt can be productive, it motivates amends, change. Shame just makes you want to hide, to withdraw, to lash out. It shuts down connection, which is the opposite of influence.
How does this play out in, say, a workplace, when shame becomes part of the culture?
You see very specific negative behaviors emerge. Things like blaming, gossiping, favoritism, name-calling, harassment. Leaders who use public reprimands or belittle people in front of others are basically cultivating a shame-based environment.
And the result is people hide mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? They don't speak up.
Precisely. Fear dominates, innovation dies. The leader ends up isolated, cut off from the reality of what's actually happening, which ultimately undermines their own effectiveness. It's self-defeating.
And this relates to how we perceive others, too, doesn't it? This idea of the Pygmalion effect.
Yes, it's incredibly relevant. The Pygmalion effect shows how our expectations, even our hidden beliefs about someone, can actually shape their performance in the relationship. There's a powerful example given.
The parents trying to encourage their son.
Right. They were saying all the right encouraging things, but deep down, their unspoken belief was that he was basically inadequate.
And the son picked up on that underlying feeling, not the words.
He sensed the disconnect. The positive behavior wasn't aligned with the negative feeling, and so all the encouragement efforts failed. You simply cannot build genuine influence or connection with someone if, at your core, you believe they are somehow less than or incapable. Your true feelings always leak out.
Which circles back to integrity and the importance of owning our own stuff, making amends when we mess up.
Absolutely. We need to model the behavior we want to see. There's another great example from Brown. A mother casually gossips about a neighbor, then overhears her son repeating it.
And she feels that warm wash of shame.
Right. But instead of hiding it or pretending it didn't happen, she immediately owns it. She apologizes to her son, explains why gossiping was wrong, and uses it as a teaching moment about her own imperfection.
That's modeling wholehearted behavior, showing vulnerability, taking responsibility. That builds incredible trust.
Far more than pretending to be perfect ever could. And this foundation of mutual worth, trust, and honesty directly supports the next key idea for connection, the win-win paradigm.
Moving beyond competition in relationships and influence.
Exactly. So much of our thinking defaults to win-lose. I get my way, you don't. Or maybe lose-lose, we compromise, and nobody's really happy.
Win-win is different. It's about mutual benefit.
Yes, constantly seeking solutions that are beneficial and satisfying to everyone involved. It's not just compromise, it's about finding what the sources call the third alternative.
A third alternative, not just my way or your way.
But a better way, a higher way. It requires stepping back from our positions and understanding the underlying interests and needs of everyone involved.
Can you give an example?
Sure, imagine the budget fight again. Project A for long-term revenue, Project B for immediate cost cuts. A simple compromise split, the money might cripple both. Lose-lose.
So the third alternative involves digging deeper.
Right. You ask why. Why the revenue focus? Why the cost-cutting urgency? Maybe the real underlying need for both sides is demonstrating short-term viability to secure crucial next-stage funding.
So the solution might not be A or B at all.
Exactly. The third alternative could be Project C, a quick, low-cost pilot that both reduces immediate spending and shows potential for future growth, meeting the core needs of both parties and preserving the relationship. That's win-win.
It sounds ideal, but why is win-lose thinking so ingrained?
Often it starts early. Childhood experiences, family dynamics, school systems. They can script us for win-lose. Conditional love, I get love if I perform better than my sibling, teaches us that worth is comparative, not intrinsic.
So we learn life is a zero-sum game.
Yeah, that there's a limited pie, and for me to win, you have to lose. That scarcity mentality is poison for collaboration and genuine influence. Win-win comes from a mentality of abundance, that there's enough for everyone and we can create more together.
Okay, so we've got the internal character straight, the empathetic approach down. Now let's talk about the actual communication. How do we structure our message to influence effectively and ethically? We're going way back for this, aren't we? To the classics.
We are. Because the ancient rhetoricians were masters of understanding persuasion, or, as Plato called it, leading the soul. And for Plato, in the Phaedrus, the absolute prerequisite for effective rhetoric was deeply understanding your audience.
Knowing the types of soul.
Exactly. He argued that a true orator must know how many types of soul there are with such and such qualities. You need to understand human nature, the different ways people think, feel, and are motivated.
That sounds like a massive undertaking. How do you even do that?
Well, Plato was clear it's not just theoretical knowledge from, classroom discussions. You have to get out there. You have to observe souls actually involved in and being affected by events. See how people react under pressure, in joy, in sorrow, in conflict. Real-life observation.
Only then can you know what kind of speech, what arguments will actually land.
Precisely. You tailor the message to the specific soul you're addressing. This deep understanding is fundamental.
And this ties back to the ethical dimension again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The difference between seeking truth versus just plausibility.
Yes. The philosopher Gorgias made a crucial distinction. He differentiated between knowledge, which produces genuine conviction and relates to understanding right and wrong, and mere persuasion, which might win agreement but doesn't necessarily connect to truth or ethics.
So if you haven't done the character ethic work,
you're much more likely to default to using plausible-sounding arguments simply to manipulate, to get your way, rather than using communication grounded in truth to genuinely guide or connect. The ethical foundation directs the tools.
Okay, assuming our goal is ethical influence, our communication needs to actually work. It needs to stick.
Yeah.
Why do so many good ideas just fail to translate into action?
One of the biggest culprits identified in the sources is abstraction. We get trapped by the curse of knowledge.
The curse of knowledge.
Yeah, once we know something well, it's incredibly hard to remember what it was like not to know it. So we speak in jargon, in abstract concepts, in strategies that make perfect sense to us but are completely opaque or unrelatable to our audience.
Like talking about leveraging synergies or optimizing knowledge management.
Exactly. Those phrases mean almost nothing concrete. The solution. Simplicity and concrete language. Use real-world examples. Instead of knowledge management, tell the story.
The health worker in Zambia.
Right. The health worker using a simple internet connection to find life-saving malaria treatment info. That's concrete, it's memorable, it shows the impact. Stories and concrete examples make ideas stick.
And one of the most powerful tools for making things concrete and memorable is metaphor. Aristotle was big on this.
He called metaphor the greatest thing by far. He said a good metaphor contains something clear, pleasant, and unfamiliar. It creates a little spark of insight. And crucially, he noted it's a sign of genius because finding the right comparison, the apt metaphor, isn't something you can just learn by rote. It requires creativity.
But it has to be the right metaphor, right? It needs to fit. He warns against jarring comparisons.
Absolutely. His example is great. A religious figure, a torchbearer, who also asks for donations. A critic, wanting to diminish him, calls him a beggar priest.
Both involve petitioning, but the connotation is totally different.
Completely different. One is honorable, the other demeaning. The metaphor has to be appropriate to the subject matter and the emotional tone you want to convey. A poorly chosen metaphor can backfire badly.
Okay, so clear, concrete language, maybe a powerful metaphor. What about structure? Does how we organize the message matter?
Hugely. The Roman rhetorician Quintilian stressed the importance of partition, which sounds fancy, but it's really just
laying out your points clearly.
like an agenda.
Exactly. The orderly enumeration of our own propositions. Telling people up front, here are the 3 things I'm going to cover. Quintilian said this does 2 vital things.
Makes it clearer, obviously. Yes, undeniably clearer for the listener. But second, and maybe more subtly, it makes the listener or the judge more attentive and receptive. It shows respect for their time and cognitive load. You're guiding them.
It builds rapport just through structure.
It really does. And speaking of structure and making things stick, we can look closer to home to someone like Russell H. Conwell. He gave his Acres of Diamonds lecture thousands of times.
Thousands. He must have nailed the delivery. What was his secret?
Anecdotes, stories. He knew abstract principles don't move people the way real-life examples do. He constantly used illustrations of the impressions and incidents of his long and varied life.
He treated each story like a tool.
Like a hammer, as one source described it, to drive home a single, clear truth. It just reinforces that powerful communication connects abstract ideas to tangible human experience. That's the rhetorical blueprint in action.
All right, we've got the internal foundation, the empathetic approach, the communication tools sharpened. Now it's about putting it all into action, creating opportunities, making things happen. And Conwell's Acres of Diamonds seems like the perfect place to start for this.
It really is. That lecture, based on a supposedly true story, is just the ultimate call to stop looking elsewhere for opportunity and start right where you are.
His core message being that greatness isn't about some future position or far-off dream.
No. It consists in doing great deeds with little means, using the opportunities you have right in front of you. His famous line urging people to begin where you are and what you are in Philadelphia or wherever you are now.
And the story that anchors it is about the guy who sells his farm to look for diamonds elsewhere.
Only for the new owner to discover vast diamond wealth right there on the land he just sold. The diamonds were in his own backyard all along.
It's such a powerful metaphor for overlooked potential.
And Conwell lived it. Look at Temple University. It didn't start with a grand vision and a massive fundraising campaign.
How did it start?
It started small, responding to a need he saw right there. Just 7 working-class people coming to his study in the evenings back in 1884, wanting to learn. He taught them.
And from those 7 pupils,
It grew into this huge institution, serving almost 90,000 students within his lifetime. It's an incredible testament to the power of starting small, starting now, right where you are.
it shows that the beginning is the critical part, just getting started earnestly.
Absolutely. Conwell deeply believed that if a thing is but earnestly begun, it may just as easily develop big results as little results. It's about taking that first proactive step, focusing on your circle of influence right now.
And this proactive, action-oriented mindset connects to another key idea. Not just accepting circumstances, but shaping them.
Right. We often hear people blaming their circumstances for what they are. It's easy to fall into that trap.
But the people who truly succeed,
The people who get on in this world, as the quote goes, often attributed to Disraeli, used by Les Brown and Tony Robbins, are the ones who get up and look for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, make them.
so it's about applying that internal character, that influence, not just to people, but to your environment.
Yeah.
To actively create the conditions you want.
Exactly. It's taking responsibility for creating your reality, not just reacting to it.
But what happens when you try to make circumstances and you hit, well, a wall, an obstacle?
This is where the internal work meets the external challenge again. And we can draw heavily on Stoic philosophy here.
The obstacle is the way.
Precisely. When you encounter an obstacle, a setback, a difficulty, a frustration, the key is a kind of mental flip. You need to pause, look at it objectively, strip away the emotional reaction for a moment.
See it for what it is, not what you fear it is.
Yes, and then realize it's not necessarily the end of the road. It's raw material. It's an opportunity.
An opportunity for what?
An opportunity to practice virtue, to be patient or creative or persistent, or to find a different path. The obstacle itself becomes the means to demonstrate character and achieve a success that might have been impossible without that challenge. You don't look at the obstacle, you look for the opportunity within it.
That's a powerful reframing. And finally, in terms of applying all this for self-improvement, there's the idea of modeling.
Yes, a very practical technique for accelerating progress towards any goal, whether it's better communication, leadership, anything.
So instead of just trial and error,
You find people who are already achieving the results you want, and you study them deeply.
not just what they do.
No, not just their surface behaviors. You try to understand their belief systems. What do they believe about themselves, about the world, about that specific skill? And even their physiology. How do they stand? How do they breathe? What's their posture like when they're performing at their best?
So you're replicating the whole internal and external strategy.
You're essentially downloading their strategy, their mindset, their approach, their physical state, and then adapting it to create your own unique path to success. It's a highly efficient way to learn and improve. It's applying influence principles to yourself. #TagTabMos. Conclusion and final thought.
Okay, so we've really traced the full arc of this Carnegie method, haven't we? It's so much more than just, being nice or remembering names.
Absolutely. It starts deep inside with that private victory, building solid character, finding your own meaning, developing integrity through aligning what you can do and what you truly desire.
Then it moves outward to the public victory, connecting with others through genuine empathy, ditching the destructive habits of criticism and shame, owning your mistakes with humility, and always aiming for that win-win, that third alternative.
And finally, it's executed through skillful communication, really understanding your audience's soul, speaking clearly and concretely, using the power of metaphor and story, and structuring your message respectfully. It's a comprehensive blueprint.
And the enduring power, the reason it's timeless, seems to be because it's not based on manipulation. It's grounded in genuine human connection and recognizing intrinsic worth.
Exactly. It requires you to be trustworthy before you can effectively influence. You earn the right to connect.
But what happens when this system breaks down? When influence relies not on connection, but on power, fear, or manipulation?
The consequences are severe, not just for the individuals, but for the whole system. There's a really potent observation from Malcolm X that comes to mind here.
What did he observe?
He talked about situations, organizations maybe, where people feel they can't speak the truth, where dissent is punished. And so they're forced to hide reality behind a facade of grinning, yes or bossing, foot shuffling.
They put on a mask to survive, hiding what's really going on, the problems, the mistakes, the true feelings.
Exactly. They hide the raw, naked facts. And ironically, this ultimately harms the dominant party, the leader, the organization the most, because they become completely cut off from reality. They operate in an echo chamber of false agreement.
They don't see the iceberg until the ship is already hitting it.
Precisely. So the final thought, the provocation perhaps we want to leave you with is this. Take a moment and consider. What hidden truths might be obscured in your own life, your team, your organization right now?
Because genuine, shame-free connection is lacking.
Yes. What crucial information, what objective reality might you be missing simply because the people around you don't feel safe enough to stop smiling and tell you what's really going on? What's the cost of that disconnect?
That is definitely something to chew on, a powerful reminder of why this work on connection and ethical influence truly matters. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next time.